Put it up here, Oz.
Enrichment, in its most basic sense, is simply improving, enhancing, enriching the animal's life. And you hear it called animal enrichment, environmental enrichment, behavioral enrichment. It's all the same. It's all looking for opportunities to improve the animal's well-being by adding elements to its environment.
Basically, environmental enrichment is all about providing for the psychological well-being of the animals in the collection. We cater for their physical well-being, we have great veterinary care, we treat their diseases, but animals need more than that. They need to be psychologically healthy, just like humans, and different animals need different things. And we use environmental enrichment as a way of addressing those needs by changing the environment to satisfy those psychological needs.
What we try to do is understand what it is about the animal's environment and the animal's experiences that are critically important in terms of which species and which individual animal we're talking about, and then we look for ways to try to reintroduce those critical elements and give animals opportunities to do the things that they're supposed to do. For example, for a river otter, we can give them live fish and actually allow them to have that predatory experience. But for other larger carnivores, there are ethical and logistical issues about giving them live food. So what we want to do is understand what are the critical elements of the experience of being a predator and how can we reintroduce those opportunities. So we think about how do they find their food, how do they stalk and kill, dismember and drag away the food item that they've caught. And so we can actually recreate those experiences even if we might not be doing it in the exact way they would experience it in the wild.
Polar bears are extremely intelligent, curious animals. They spend a lot of time investigating their environment in the wild so they can find seals. We can provide things to put in their zoo environment that make it more interesting for them. And an obvious example is giving them piles of ice or snow, which, believe it or not, polar bears seem to like a lot, especially if there's pieces of food hidden in it. We also give them ice blocks with a number of different sort of food treats hidden in them, and that does a couple of things. It provides them with their food, but it provides it in a more challenging way because they have to break into the ice blocks, and they never know quite what's in the ice blocks, and they have to explore and search around the exhibits to get it. So it just makes things a little more interesting and requires a little bit more from the polar bears than a more traditional way of just putting their food on the floor in front of them. We also give polar bears plastic toys, and actually polar bears are very playful and they will make up games to play with plastic toys. Now you might not think that's very natural, and that's true, but a natural ability or natural characteristic of polar bears is to be very curious and to explore and manipulate their environment. So giving them an artificial plastic toy does actually satisfy that need in polar bears. And people have seen polar bears playing with plastic toys in the wild.
So she'll be the fruit passer. You're going to be the fruit passer?
So welcome to, for many of you, your first enrichment activity here at the zoo. And one of the things we do for our animals every day is provide them with enrichment. And the whole idea of enrichment is to make the animals think. One part of enrichment is what we call functional naturalism. It means that we use something that doesn't look natural, but it has the same function. The Volunteer Enrichment Committee formed because it was a concern there wasn't a mechanism to help the keepers with providing enrichment for the animals. It's something they do every day, but sometimes they don't have time to make the big ticket items. So we gathered together a group of, at that time, about 20 people, and it's grown to over 100 people. And our purpose is to give the keepers whatever help they need to provide enrichment for the animals. Something that may change the animal's day, change something in their exhibit, give them a chance to do something they might do out in the wild, just to change their lives. So we may do something as small as make ice treats for some of the animals, or gather wild edible flowers and herbs for them to eat, or we've done bigger things. So whatever the keepers would like in terms of enrichment, we help with.
The Volunteer Enrichment Team is a group of volunteers who are committed to this idea of animal enrichment. They work with us to understand what it is we're trying to accomplish for the animals. They undertake projects that are a little more complex or difficult than we would necessarily have time or ability to do. Some of the things that they've been able to do for us simple things like making piñatas and complex ice treats to offer to the animals, but some really innovative things too. We've done Polar Bear Snow Day, where they actually go up to an ice rink with a pickup truck and they pick up all the Zamboni shavings and bring them up to the zoo and cart them wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow into the exhibit so the animals get an opportunity to be on snow. We did Polar Bear Snow Day in July. It was a big hit with the public, and it was really cool to see polar bears being polar bears.
Take the bottom off. We're going to do it the easy way. Yep.
The volunteer enrichment team sometimes takes enrichment a step further. One thing that the team has done is to create a paper mache deer for the tigers, life size, about 4 feet tall. The first time we put one of these deer in there, the female tiger actually attacked it first, brought it down, and then the male came in and they tore it apart. They rolled it around, took turns pulling at it, as they would do out in the wild with a kill. It provided a lot of exercise for the animals because they did chase each other around, got into little arguments once in a while, and then the other one would sneak in and take a haunch of it and go across the exhibit.
The Oregon Zoo has a very prominent history in terms of environmental enrichment. Hal Markovits is often thought to be the father of environmental enrichment, the guy who first really brought it to prominence. He was at the Oregon Zoo in the 80s, and we have continued that history of doing research on environmental enrichment and advocating for more environmental enrichment in the zoo community. What we're hoping for the future of enrichment at the Oregon Zoo is to do more of what we're doing now and to do it better and to do it more efficiently and to plan environmental enrichment into all our new exhibits. It's a constantly moving goalpost. It's really only limited by the creativity and imagination of the keepers that are doing it. And if we do our jobs right with respect to environmental enrichment, we may find that we don't need to use the term in the future. It'll just be good animal care.